optimistic about where the world will be 50 years from now. I hope I'm around to see it, but I think we can already see the shape of things in some ways. The human population, which was growing at a very rapid rate, is now growing at a slower rate because as we become successful, families have chosen to have less children. And so we can see a peak population that makes it possible to think about living within the resource constraints that we have. We can also see a decline in violence. It's amazing now because we hear about all the violent things around the world, but every century the world has had a lot less war, a lot less violent deaths, and we've come to value the work that's being done in other countries, making great products, and really think together about humanity's common future. The pace of innovation will need to surprise us in some ways. What form this great energy source will be that will avoid us destroying the environment. That's an invention that's very, very important. How much care will we give towards making sure that the poorest several billion are not completely left out? There's been a little bit of progress there, but the inequity level still should concern us quite a bit. And then there are things that are harder to predict. For example, how important will robots be in 50 years? Maybe 20 years ago, people, when they first heard about robots, thought, wow, that's pretty scary. What does it mean? But then when it didn't really happen, they stopped thinking about it. It's almost like only a curiosity in the movies or toys. And yet, clearly in the decades ahead, the cost, the capabilities will mimic what we've seen in science fiction. And so we'll have to see, how do we take advantage of that? As we're living longer, how do we find fulfillment? What does a working career look like in terms of timing? The world will have aged on average, and that brings with it very interesting problems. And so it's not without challenges, but the path of extended lifespan, more science, more global understanding, sense of our common humanity, more education, more ability to watch a great course and not give up the curiosity that you're born with, but try to think about the world and where it can go and how you can contribute to it. I think all of these things are taking more advantage of our innate capabilities and will allow us to make 50 years from now a far better place than even what we have today.
So it often doesn't make sense for us to think of it as a pitched battle. Sometimes people think about business as it's kind of like a sporting event. There's a winner and a loser.
It's not a zero-sum game.
It usually isn't. I'm sure there are cases where, but most often, industries succeed. So I can tell you, I think e-commerce is succeeding. And the way we think about it, nobody else has to fail for us to do well. I think ebooks is like that. I think there are going to be many winners. I think ebooks is going to be a huge industry.
Well, there are many competitors now. I mean, you've got Barnes & Noble is one of them, Sony is another now,
and
Apple is another.
But I have a list of 50 competitors that we could walk through. I mean, all over the world doing different things. And our focus is going to be, we'll try to pay attention to those competitors, but we're not going to obsess over them. We're going to obsess over readers, and because those are the people who are buying that device. And we're going to make it, and it's not just a business for us, it's a mission for us. And missionaries build better products.
What is Jeff Bezos thinking about today in 2010 that we might not know anything about that he thinks may be a reality in 2013 or 2015?
Well,
where is
one of the things is the Amazon Web Services business. Now there's a business that probably
this is the Amazon Cloud stuff.
Yes, and there's a business that's growing. It's in a hyper growth phase. It's already a significant business. That's a business that probably is not getting as much attention
Is there a
as
dominant
it
player in the
deserves.
cloud business now?
Well, Amazon, in the infrastructure part of it, which is the part that we play in, Amazon is by far the leader.
Right.
It started mostly with startup companies, but now it's big enterprises adopting. The best analogy I can give you for this is, it's like the electric grid. So instead of, right now, big companies build their own data centers, and they buy their own servers, and they put it in. It's a lot of CapEx. There's a lot of price of admission. You have to, if you're going to operate a data center, you have to do it well. But it doesn't differentiate you from your competitors. It's just a price of admission. And so what we do at Amazon Web Services is we sell compute by the hour. We sell compute by the drink. And it's just like buying electricity off the grid instead of having your own power manufacturing, your own power generating plant.
Launching solar panels, building out solar panels and systems. Why does solar make sense?
The people of Earth will have to make a decision to what degree do they are we willing to sacrifice the future for the present?
Yeah.
The overwhelming opinion of the scientific community is that we should not put billions of tons of carbon into the atmosphere, which is what we're doing. But unless we change the rules, because the rules currently strongly favor hydrocarbons, unless we change the rules, I think we're in for a really rough future.
I mean, is that in the back of your mind of how you can seduce the public to buy into a low carbon future when it's so easy with low oil prices that they don't need to go solar, they don't need to go electric? So you got to make it cool for them. You got to make it enticing for them.
Well, that's what we try to do with Tesla. Is we try to make the electric car so compelling that you don't care about about cheap gas. It's harder, I think, on the solar front because electricity is more of a commodity. It's not like different types of electricity, it's essentially a commodity. I mean, fundamentally, we have a delayed gratification issue collectively as a species. Like, are we willing to sacrifice the near term for the long term or not? I mean, at some point we will have no choice because we'll run out of hydrocarbons to mine and burn, and we will have to transition to a sustainable energy economy. So sooner or later, we've got to go towards a solar electric future. It's better for the future of Earth if we go sooner than later.
You're also the CEO of SpaceX. The ultimate goal is Mars.
Right.
It's getting humankind to Mars. So why does Mars make sense?
The goal of Tesla and Solar City is to minimize the existential threat of a delayed transition to a sustainable energy economy. The purpose of SpaceX is to help make life multiplanetary. If life as we know it is multiplanetary, then the probable length of existence of human civilization is much greater. So, I mean, think of like this, like the unifying philosophy behind all three companies is trying to minimize existential threats, that kind of thing.
And I see that, but Mars and...
Why Mars instead of something else?
No, but how I see Mars being your destination is sort of a backup plan for humankind, right?
I think there are two main motivations for Mars. I mean, one is the sort of defensive reason of saying, okay, if something were to happen to Earth, is life as we know it, does it end? Or if it's on another planet, then it probably doesn't end. A multi-planet civilization is likely to last a lot longer than a single planet civilization. The other part of it is it would just be an incredible adventure.
Yeah.
And it would be very exciting. And even if somebody never planned to go to Mars, just following the progress, I think, would vicariously would be quite inspiring.
Yeah.
And I do think it's important that we have things that inspire us. It can't just be about solving, miserable problems all the time, because why get up in the morning?
What's your advice to encourage people to do the hard stuff and to invent the hard stuff for the betterment of humankind?
I think the right way to think of things is like, what is the most useful thing that you can think of to do, and that others are not doing? If our problems are getting well solved by others, there's not much point in going and then competing against them if they're going to solve it well anyway. It's better to work on things that you think probably enough smart people aren't working on.